Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, this is Jessie. I am so happy to be back with you guys. All right, I am a few minutes late, but I've got a good reason. As my husband says, for those of you mere mortals who are unaffected by the UN General Assembly, I had wandered over their website to look for some audio to play during my show. because, well, if you know where to find it, they can be a good source, just like anything else. And I happened into a live, absolutely live, streaming audio from South Korea discussing North Korea. Now, I didn't realize it was live. I thought I could rewind it, so I didn't catch everything I wanted, but I did get a few good clips. We are going to play part of those. Yes, the UN General Assembly is live right now in New York, and believe it or not, you can watch for free just by going to UN.org and finding their UN web TV services. You can actually watch these leaders, and you can even change it over to your preferred language, which of course mine is, well, English. So you will get an automatic translation, which is pretty darn helpful, I think. So that's why I'm a couple of minutes late, because I was over on the UN site. Here, let me see if I can pull it up real quick, just to give you an idea. I have no idea what we're going to run into, but let's see if I can pull it in just for a minute to give you an idea of what's going on. Alright, news and media, UN web TV, and looks like it has actually ended. Yay, maybe I can find that South Korean video. Looks like it must have ended at top of the hour, so I'm going to just leave it and then not stream anything. They've got a series of on-demand videos. Yes, I encourage you. Please feel free to watch them if you're so interested. There is some interesting stuff that happens, and for those of you who don't think the UN affects your everyday life, it may not be a day-to-day effect thing, but I can see how it could impact some of the bigger overall arching things. And you probably don't even think about it, because trust me, I didn't used to either. And right now I'm seeing Rwanda, Burkina, Liberia. I'm not seeing South Korea. I have no idea when the South Korea thing will be live. Alright, let me see if I can find... I'm going to do a quick search for it. Bear with me. Because I thought what South Korea had to say was pretty interesting. Alright. We're going back in time here. Of course, when I do these searches, I have to remember to use the real name for South Korea, which isn't actually South Korea, just like every other country. It is the Republic of Korea. So that may be something that will affect searches in places like this. Okay. I'm scrolling. I am not seeing it. Now, for those of you who are new to all this, don't worry about it. I am too. And what I find fascinating, and I'm going to apologize in advance if any audio slips in. I'm not trying to start any, but we are going to do one more quick search for Republic of Korea and see if I get the web TV video I'm looking for. And it is not coming up, so they probably haven't broken it down and processed it yet. I will look for it later tonight. But I do have a clip that I managed to grab once I realized, oh my gosh, this is live! And it was funny, you should have heard me. I was just like, okay. And I didn't even, how late I was to the party, I didn't even catch the fact that who was speaking. I literally just jumped in. I'm not going to play it all, but we are going to take a brief listen, because I think it's important for you to hear these people in their own words. Alright? I do think it's important that you don't rely on me to digest everything and feed it back to you, and you just take whatever I have to say as gospel. All right, let's take a brief listen. This is mostly talking about human rights.
Korea, when its regime is defiantly refusing to do so. Now is a time for action. First, the international community's human rights mechanisms must take more robust measures. The group of independent experts on accountability is to recommend practical mechanisms of accountability for human rights violations in the DPRK. In particular, violations amounting to crimes against humanity. Second, we need to sharpen our focus on North Korea's so-called state-sponsored forced labor abroad. There should be greater scrutiny on human rights of North Korean workers abroad and the possible diversion of their wages into North Korea's WMD programs. Third, the international community should pay great attention to the yearnings of North Koreans for freedom and human dignity. They deserve greater access to the realities of the outside world. On our part, we recently enacted the North Korea Human Rights Act. This is a reflection of the nationwide consensus that we should no longer ignore the human rights situation in North Korea. Mr. President, this year marks the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's 10th year in office. This is the last UN General Assembly during his term. Let me commend his commitment and leadership, as well as his remarkable achievements in a range of areas, most notably on climate change.
All right, he's getting way off into the woods here, and I don't think the rest of it is really all that relevant. Had I caught the original stuff I was listening to and I didn't realize that was live, we might have had something a little more interesting. But basically, yes, for those of you that are unaware, North Korea does have businesses abroad. Wait, what? You don't listen to the show often, do you? North Korea has restaurants. Yes, I said restaurants in other countries. Most of them are in China, but not all of them. But they are in, we'll just say, friendly countries. Okay? Now, for those of you that don't listen to this show or didn't catch the 2-hour-long episode yesterday, all right? The Iranian leader, Rouhani, visited another one of our lovely favorite countries, so I don't talk about this one nearly as often, Cuba, to discuss trade. Yeah, that stack of paper isn't as thick today. I actually, yes, by doing that 2-hour-long show yesterday, I got rid of a lot of my backlog of stories. Trust me, although there's one I still didn't get to. So I am flipping through my stack and pulling that one up as we speak. Because guess what? I often like to go off the reservations. Hey, you guys know you never know what I'll talk about, where I'll get my information. I do try and use mostly news sources. But I did pull in some personal accounts. By the way, remember we were discussing the possibility that U.S. forces were attacked with chemical weapons. From everything I have gleaned, learned, both through media accounts and friends who are on the ground. Yes, I actually have friends on the ground in the area that was attacked. Everything is fine. So far, no one is showing any signs or symptoms of problems from the attack. And in my mind, that is good news. And that is thanks in large part to the quick decontamination procedures that our military has put in place. So way to go, guys. Good job. And I did happen to ask how long it takes to don that J's list, and I forgot to mention it last night, so we're briefly going to cover it tonight. J's list, which is your protective clothing for chemical attacks, can take upwards of 5 minutes to get the whole suit on. However, the person said, yeah, you'd be amazed how fast you can move when there's incoming fire that could be containing it. So he's like, but you still have to be careful you don't rip it to shreds. So I get his point, and we're going to leave it at that. He's like, your mask? Yeah, you practice with that so you can get that thing on quick, fast, and in a hurry. He's like, I got it down to less than 7 seconds. So what can I say? Those are just a few additional things, and for those of you who live under a rock or have not heard the fact that U.S. forces in northern Iraq were potentially exposed to a mustard agent in the past 48 hours, please do check your local news services. Actually, don't even turn on your TV. Just go to your web browser and put it in. You'll find it faster. I'm sorry. Local TVs tend to be all over the place, and, well, they are not the best source of news, as much as I wish they were. Why do you think I'm here? Why do you think I do what I do every day? Now, a little bit of news, station news. What? There's station news? Oh, yeah, lots of station news. All right, we recently added a whole bunch of shows to iTunes. Yeah, I said iTunes. But that isn't the only thing. If you don't follow at KLRN Radio on Twitter, or haven't liked our Facebook page, KLRN Radio, you might miss out some of our announcements. Recently added to Twitter. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull up the list. All right, let me pull up the list. Give me just a second. All right. On Twitter now, from KLRN Radio, we have the Conservative Curmudgeon, which, great show. If you've never listened into Grouchy, he does a fun job. My show, but don't go looking for it quite yet. I'm switching the link around. The whole few technical bits and pieces take a couple of days. Liberty Unfiltered, Robinson and Wright, The Jen and Rick Show, Conversations in Science, that's a new show. Finding Common Ground, Wentz World, Jessie's Coffee Shop, my other show, which will have at least 2 new episodes this week, thank you very much. Opinion Nation with Bryce Robbins, America Off the Rails with Rick Robbins, no they're not related. Around the Ring, and God's Pure Word of Faith by Richard Hardin. Yes, you can find all of those. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 14 different things you can find on iTunes now. 13 are individual shows. The KLRN Radio one is literally everything that airs under the KLRN label. All right, it's our syndicated shows. It's everything. And there is a new one that will be going up on iTunes soon. At least that's what I've heard. I will get you details as soon as it happens. So we are always innovating and always trying to bring you new content. I've also heard that we're coming to Google Play Music under podcasts too. Oh yeah. All right. I think that's enough station news and enough gobbledygook. Let's get back to the chaos in the world. All right. If you remember correctly, a few days ago, there was a UN convoy that was bombed delivering relief. Let me see if I've still got the audio from that. Hang on, I'm looking as fast as I can. You have never seen the amount of audio I have tucked away. Yeah. There, this one will do. Alright, here's why the UN suspended aid convoys.
The United Nations has now suspended all aid convoys in Syria after the deadly airstrikes on a Red Crescent convoy. That's the equivalent of the Red Cross. 20 people were killed in the assault northwest of Aleppo. A secondary airstrike killed first responders, according to the U.S. The UN is calling it an attack on humanity, a war crime, clearly threatening to unravel a tenuous ceasefire brokered by Secretary of State Kerry and his Russian counterpart. This as the U.S.-led coalition continues its fight against ISIS. Joining me now is the special presidential envoy for the global coalition to counter ISIS, or ISIL, Brett McGurk. Thank you very much. Busy time here with the UN, but this horrific attack on the aid convoy, the relief agency calling it crime against humanity, the U.S. telling us, White House and State Department officials telling us that they believe this was airstrikes, and the only people in the air are the regime and the Russians are the guarantors of the regime. Russia's claiming it was artillery from anti-Assad rebels.
We think it was an airstrike. It wasn't us, so that leaves only two candidates. This is a convoy that had been very well coordinated. People should have known where it was, and obviously Secretary Kerry saw Foreign Minister Lavrov today. They had a very candid discussion about this entire thing. Then joined with the entire international support group for Iraq, a number of countries from the region, and about 24 countries from the world that really want to try to de-escalate the conflict in Syria. An outrageous act, and unanimity on that. We need to find out exactly what happened, but we think it was an airstrike, and there are only two candidates for that.
If we think it's an airstrike, and the fact that we...
All right, I cut it off because it was getting a little long. All right, here's what Bashar al-Assad, courtesy of NBC, had to say about this.
It was 4 airplanes that's been...
I'm going to preface this. First, he was discussing the bombing of his troops, which was an accident by the U.S., and then he discusses the aid convoy.
It was 4 airplanes that kept attacking the position of the Syrian troops for nearly 1 hour, or a little bit more than 1 hour. You don't commit a mistake for more than 1 hour. This first. Second, they weren't attacking a building in a quartier. They were attacking a huge place constituted of many hills, and there was no terrorist adjacent to the Syrian troops there. At the same time, the ISIS troops or the ISIS militants attacked right away after the American strike. How could they know that the Americans are going to attack that position in order to gather the militants to attack right away and to capture it 1 hour after the strike? So it was definitely intentional, not unintentional, as they claimed. And regarding the claim of the White House yesterday, accusing either the Syrian or the Russian, in that regard, I would say whatever the American officials said about the conflicts in Syria in general has no credibility. Whatever they say, it just lies and, let's say, bubbles, has no foundation on the ground.
So what happened to the convoy? Who should be held responsible?
Those convoys were in the area of the militants, were in the area under the control of the terrorists. That's what they should accuse first, the people or the militants, the terrorists who are responsible of the security of this convoy. So we don't have any idea about what happened. The only thing that we saw was a video of burned car, destroyed trucks, nothing else.
All right, so Assad is basically saying we have no clue what happened. That's not what the U.S. is saying. And again, one incident, multiple sides. Now, for those of you with your scorecards, what we call Syrian rebels, he calls militants and terrorists. All right? All right. Now, I've got a couple other things, but it is almost the bottom of the hour. My, oh my, how time flies, especially when you're running late. We're going to take the commercial break just a few seconds early, and then I will be back with you after the commercial break. In the meantime, I've got a couple more audio clips I'll be prepping for you, and we're going to listen into a few more things when we come back and discuss a few more incidents. Yes, the world is in chaos.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
Down if you wanna, you can run away if you wanna, you can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna, you can play dead if you wanna, forget what they said if you wanna, turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
Alright, thank you for hanging in there with me over that commercial break. Alright, my oh my, where has the time gone? I mean, really, it's already past the bottom of the hour. Yes, I know I was a few minutes late. Alright, for those of you who haven't heard, Boeing and Airbus made a deal. And if those names sound familiar, you've probably flown on if you've ever been in the air, you've probably flown on a Boeing product. Yes, you have probably flown on a Boeing aircraft. Now, this article that came out in the New York Times points out a fact most people aren't going to be aware of. Long before the first newly purchased Boeing airliner lands at Imam Khomeini International Airport, Iran and the United States will have to come to terms with a new reality. American citizens will once again be taking up residence in Tehran. the first to do so since the Islamic Revolution. Well, that part isn't exactly accurate. We have had Americans who have been in Tehran since then. Syed Abedini, who held dual citizenship. However, Iran does not recognize the dual citizenship. There was Washington Post reporter, I don't remember the first name, but Rezan. So, like I said, there have been other Americans there, but they were dual citizens. But these are going to be people with exclusive American passports. Now, for those of you who don't understand why this is going to be a major issue, the U.S. has no formal diplomatic relations with Iran. What does that mean in nuts and bolts for someone on the ground? There's no U.S. embassy. There's no U.S. consulate. And I believe it's Switzerland who provides representation for Americans in Iran. So, like I said, this is going to be a major thing. Boeing will almost certainly have to open an administrative office in Tehran, and technicians will have to move here to train the Iranian counterparts in the care and maintenance of plane. Among them will almost certainly be many Americans. This seems to be exactly what the United States had in mind when approving the deal, Iranian analyst says. The deal not only allows President Hassan Rouhani to show a tangible gain from warming relations with the West, but also moves Iran that much closer to the ultimate goal of realizing normalization of relations with the United States. Meaning Iran, or at least some of the people in Iran, would like to see us reestablish formal diplomatic relations. Right now, we've got some stuff going, but it's mostly back channel stuff. It's mostly, through side channels. We use the Swiss, we use other people to send our messages, and that's how they communicate back. Except for the Iran nuclear deal, which, have I mentioned how much of a farce that thing is? I won't air my clip, but there were a lot of side deals that basically said, well, we're going to put this on paper, but then a couple days later said, all right, well, we can't meet that, so we'll give you an exception. What's the point of having a deal if you're going to provide exceptions to some of the most important parts of the deal? I don't get it. All right. Word of the Boeing and Airbus deals came as Mr. Rouhani was attending the UN General Assembly in New York. Speaking at a news conference on Thursday, Mr. Rouhani said Iranian officials had already developed relationships with counterparts at both aviation companies through, quote, many visits, and that Iran welcomed foreign business and investment. Well, no kidding. Their economy's in the toilet. It's 10 times worse than ours, if not more. Buying planes from the United States, opening a Boeing office, or having American representatives at an international airport might seem insignificant, but that is a tectonic shift in relations. In other words, this is huge. This isn't a little bit big. This is majorly big. And pardon me with my voice today, Mr. Frog is making his presence known in multiple ways. In 1980, when the ties between the two countries were severed, all 140,000 Americans living in Iran were forced to leave. The United States Embassy was turned into an ideological museum, and all American businesses left over the years as sanctions made commerce increasingly difficult and more recently impossible. Bureaus of the New York Times, Bloomberg, and some other media organizations were long the only official American entities allowed to operate in Iran, either by Iranian authorities or under U.S. sanctions. When Conoco won an oil contract in Iran in 1995, it secretly opened an office in Tehran, only to close it when Congress adopted tougher sanctions. Many Iranians, and we're talking the people now, not the government, hoped the January nuclear deal, which led to the lifting of some measures, will change all of that, citing the jetliner deal as the start of a new era. We're getting to a point where the gap between economic relations and political normalization is gradually getting smaller, said Saeed Leilaz, an economist close to the government. Hatred of the United States was the ideological bedrock of the Islamic Republic of Iran. However, there are strong forces dedicated to keeping it that way. Police officers some months ago closed a knockoff KFC restaurant after hardliners protested, saying chicken wings were a symbol of Westernism. Of Westernization. When someone tried to open a McDonald's franchise here 20 years ago, it took just 2 days for the restaurant to be burned down. There are still many sources of tension, particularly the harassment of United States Navy vessels by Iranian speedboats and the imprisonment of several Iranian Americans with dual nationalities. Those episodes and others like them are not likely to disappear soon, as they serve the interests of hardliners who want to discourage any sort of rapprochement. No, we should not have relations, said Hamizadeh Targai, a conservative political analyst. We hardliners also want safe planes, but we need to keep our independence and distance from the United States. This is one of the pillars of our ideology. Now, I've got an audio clip on just how big this deal is, and it's huge. We're talking billions of dollars.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. Yeah. I mean, the last time something like this happened was about 40 years ago in 1977, and just a couple years before, of course, the Islamic Revolution happened, which, of course, toppled the Shah. But, U.S. sanctions, of course, were eased back in January after Iran agreed to a new nuclear accord, and that has paved the way for some business. And in the world of aviation, this is the big one that we're talking about here. We have this deal worth about $17.6 billion for Boeing. So let me walk you through the specifics of this deal. First up, we're talking about 109 jets that are going to be going to Iran Air. 80 of those jets are going to be in the form of 747s, 777s, and the upgraded 777Xs. And 29 of those jets, the other side, are actually be coming from leasing companies. And Boeing is going to be helping Iran Air secure those over there. With that said, a spokesman for Boeing said that any final sales agreement would have to adhere to the license that we have been issued. So, of course, when dealing with Iran, there are some issues and some possible obstacles, of course, here in the U.S. as well. One potential obstacle could be with the U.S. presidential election. Of course, with the next president, they might decide to reenact sanctions against Iran. So, of course, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But with regards to how Boeing reacted today, it is up by about 2.2%. We did see a pop at around 2:30 p.m. Wall Street time, and ever since then, it had been going higher and higher, up by about 1% since then. In addition, as for Airbus also got a license from the U.S. government. Airbus also saw a pop today, up by a little more than 1%. It will be exporting its first 17 jets worth about $27 billion. We saw that spike also happen similarly. Betty.
All right, and that audio is from a source called One News Daily. They do a very good job, and I do appreciate their putting together such audio and our use of it. So, all right, now, I am looking for one other article, but we're going to pivot away from Iran, and pardon my cough during that audio. I forgot to mute my mic when I was recording that audio, pulling that audio and prepping it. That's how Mr. Frog made an additional appearance. So, all right, so back to Syria momentarily, and then we're going to turn to North Korea. Yes, I'm all over the page today. I'm sorry, I'm not more organized. All right. Kerry admits Syrian diplomacy at an impasse after truces end. Secretary of State John Kerry says the current trajectory of efforts to work out a diplomatic solution for Syria can't continue after the collapse of the ceasefire and the Syrian government's announcement of a new offensive on Aleppo. Kerry says the U.S. will continue pushing for a negotiated truce and political transition that can end the 5 years of war, but he says Washington cannot be successful alone and needs the Syrian government and its chief backer, Russia, to do their part. Kerry says we can't go out to the world and say we have an agreement when we don't. Now, similar vein, Rouhani saying, and this was Rouhani speaking during a news conference after addressing the UN General Assembly. stated that he joined in opposing a call by the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry to halt all flights over Syria in efforts to get relief shipments through, saying it would only help the Islamic radicals gain ground. Rouhani also alleged Washington was sowing fear among financial institutions wanting to do business with his country as part of sanctions. So, what can I say? But it's a bit of a wreck. Alright. During a heated Security Council debate, Kerry's proposal to halt all flights was met with both disagreement in Moscow and even Washington. General Joseph Dunford, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, told Congress that any grounding of warplanes should exclude American aircraft. And Russia's deputy foreign minister said grounding flights would make matters worse, a voice echoed Thursday by Rouhani. Kerry called a stop to all flights after an airstrike on a humanitarian aid convoy this week killed 20 civilians. But Rouhani suggested airstrikes remain the best way of an attack on Islamic radicals. Iran strongly backs the Assad government. Remember our scorecard? Iran and Russia are backing Assad. Alright? Alright. Alright, Iran complains that international financial sanctions are not being lifted quickly enough under the agreement that stipulates removal of these and other penalties imposed over Tehran's nuclear program in exchange for Tehran's agreement to curb economic activities that could be used to make a bomb. Tehran says America is to blame, a theme Rouhani sounded both in an earlier speech to the General Assembly and his comments to reporters. I am going to attempt to pull together. This Saturday's slowdown is going to focus on speeches from the UN General Assembly. So I am going to work on pulling it all together. Now, what else do we have? At one point they tell them you're free to engage with Iran banking activity. At other times they enter the arena with threats. The U.S. has threatened big banks, he said. He said restrictions on U.S. companies doing business in Iran as part of sanctions that remain in place outside the nuclear deal were America's problem. For Tehran's part, Rouhani said we have no issues for traders, technical business owners, or company representatives to come to Iran. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, you won't catch me in Tehran. Sorry, no dice. Now, let's see if I can remember where I put this one piece of audio. I've got one here. Yes, I'm bad about getting my audio labeled. You ought to know this by now. Alright, give me 1 second to figure out which clip this is.
Stephen, what are the Chinese officials saying?
Alright, this audio is about China's reaction to, like I said, we're turning to North Korea. This is China's reaction to North Korea and North Korea nuclear development.
Stephen, what are the Chinese officials saying?
Well, John, the Chinese Foreign Ministry just issued a brief statement voicing its strong opposition to the latest test. It urges North Korea to abide by its international commitments and to stop any action that would further worsen the situation. It also repeats China's long-held position that it wants to see a nuclear-free Korean peninsula and says the only way to achieve that is through dialogues and talks in the framework of the so-called six-party talks. Now, John, these are not surprising points. What's more interesting is a commentary published by the state-run Xinhua news agency a little earlier. That article did point out that the latest test was in violation of UN resolutions, but also it says it puts the whole thing in the context of the South Korean government's decision to deploy the THAAD missile defense system, saying that decision has seriously harmed the region's strategic balance and has triggered the escalation of tensions in the the region. So then it lists this latest test as well as more recent missile tests as examples, trying to drive home the point China has been making that the THAAD deployment would trigger an arms race here in the region. So it seems interesting that the Chinese government here is trying to address several audiences, not only to Pyongyang but also to Seoul and Washington as well. Probably to a domestic audience as well, John, because remember, anytime these kind of tests happen, it has a concrete impact on residents of the border region. Earlier today, state media reported residents living in northeastern China felt strong and very obvious tremors at the time of the nuclear test. And the Ministry of Environmental Protection also said they have launched an emergency response by starting to measure radiation levels in the border region, although so far no abnormal readings have been reported. John?
All right, so there you heard China's reaction to the most recent North Korea test. Now, I've got one more bit of audio here we're going to play, and I believe I've got the right one queued up.
I believe their Secretary General...
Nope, wrong one. All right, let me find it. Hopefully I didn't axe it by accident.
As usual.
Nope, that's not it either. Maybe I might have axed it because it was before all that. Hang on, let me see if I can pull it up real quick and fast. It's basically a timeline on the North Korea nuclear development. And thankfully, I know where I got it from. Hey, I do try and remember this stuff, at least for as long as I'm on air. So give me 1 second, and this is also courtesy of CNN. Now, if any audio starts up, I'm going to apologize in advance. Alright, so Japan has issued a grave warning about North Korea nukes. Well, that's to be expected because guess what? Their missile test missiles are frequently entering their economic zone and their airspace. You want to deal with rockets flying at you all the time? Alright, no, that's what can China do. Where's the timeline one? There was a timeline one. Where did it get to? Yeah, I'm scrambling. I usually am.
Two things are going to happen. First, that phone over there is going to ring. Second, you're going to be...
Alright, so we're going to pull this back up as soon as whatever's playing currently stops. And this is just
10 years, 5 tests, and increasing concerns about the threat of North Korea's nuclear weapons. In September, North Korea claimed to have successfully tested a nuclear warhead. It could be the most powerful to date. A 10-kiloton device detonated at the country's Punggye-ri nuclear test site. Now, to put it in perspective, the A-bomb the U.S. dropped on Hiroshima was 15 kilotons. 80,000 people died instantly. 200,000 in total perished. North Korea conducted its first nuclear test in 2006. By comparison, that was tiny, less than 1 kiloton. 3 more tests followed. In 2009, North Korea set off an underground blast with an explosive yield of 2 kilotons. In 2013, new leader Kim Jong-un ordered the first test of his regime. That was more powerful, 6 to 7 kilotons. And then in 2016, Kim upped the ante again, claiming to have tested a hydrogen bomb. Analysts say the only way the world will know if North Korea has achieved its aim of making a nuclear weapon small enough to be mounted on a missile is if it actually fires one.
Alright, so unless North Korea actually tells somebody the truth or shoots off a nuclear missile, God forbid, nobody wants to see that. I'm sorry, nobody. Alright? Nobody wants to see that. Now, in a North Korean statement, state news agency said Seoul's actions were those of a regime frightened by the daily increasing might of the DPRK, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the official name for North Korea. The Park Group, as in South Korea, should clearly understand that remarks made by its, quote, dirty mouths and the racket of confrontation with the DPRK would precipitate its miserable destruction. All right. Speaking Wednesday at the UN, Chinese Premier Li Qiang called for the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and the resumption of dialogue with Pyongyang. China is North Korea's only real ally and has publicly lobbied against Pyongyang's nuclear program. Despite this, protests have proceeded, and some analysts have warned that Beijing is too concerned about potential collapse of North Korean regime and instability that would follow to take concrete action. Lee met with U.S. President Barack Obama to discuss invigorating cooperation in the United Nations Security Council and law enforcement channels on North Korea. China needs to understand that in the long run, it's going to be less secure if North Korea pursues its nuclear program. And to give you guys an idea, Japan's also going, we're tired of this. Alright, to put this into context, more than 21 ballistic missiles have been launched by North Korea this year alone. And this is according to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, with several of them reaching waters within Japan's exclusive economic zone, 200 nautical miles from its coast. It's purely a matter of good fortune that no commercial aircrafts or ships suffered any damage during this incident, Abe said. There's no alternative but to say this. The threat has now reached a dimension altogether different from what has transpired up until now. He urged the UN to indicate an unmistakable attitude to this threat. In other words, stop, for lack of a term, pussyfooting around and get with the program. North Korea, we all know, is developing a nuclear bomb. And I firmly believe that they're either getting help from either Pakistan or Iran. Can I prove it yet? No. We do know they trade with Iran. Alright. I am almost at the top of the hour. But I'm going to take just one more second, because there's one news article I keep forgetting to bring up. And this is important. Okay. Asylum seekers from Syria and other war-torn states who are registered as refugees and receive social benefits in Germany do not hesitate to opt for a quote-unquote vacation in their war-ravaged countries. A German media report discovered this. The information was unveiled by the outlet Die Welt am Sonntag, citing its own investigation. Oh yeah. Time out. You're a, quote, refugee or asylum seeker. You have gotten out of Dodge, so you're going to take a vacation? Yeah, wait a minute. According to current rules applying to asylum seekers claiming social benefits in Germany, they are eligible to leave the country for a total of 21 days per year. Migrants, however, are not obliged to report to authorities where they are traveling, but merely when and for how long. Now, my thing about this is, if you're an asylum seeker and you're willing to go back to your home country for a vacation, how much danger are you really in? And what's so bad about your home country, or is it just the free benefits you want? Alright, you know what's coming. On that note,